we're not certain.
Okay.
I will.
Okay. Alan?
True.
Tom?
Sure.
Perfect, okay.
We'll just put Jeff down as a positive.
Hey, I can speak for him.
So,
He asked again.
before I kind of get into this, there's some housekeeping. So those of you that have served on the budget committee, in years past, it looks a little bit different, I'm sure, as you've seen it. So as it was, packet was sent to you, the line item detail sheet for each department in the online packet included the prior year column. That's for staff use. That's where we look and we compare and we bring in our people. We use it for reference when we're building the budget. The one as presented tonight has that removed. Makes it a little cleaner looking. So the budget document presented today has the prior year column removed from it. Some changes from last year's budget. So due to Oregon budget law, there's some technical terms that have changed. Revenue is now resource. So instead of saying revenue, it'll say resource. Expense is now expenditures. And unallocated is changed to unappropriated. So, and in this budget document, compared to years prior, there's some new pages. One is the expenditure summary chart that's added to show the outpacing of our resources to our expenditures. And then there's a page in there at the end, which is unfunded needs, which is showing the needs that we foresee, but we are unable to fund at this time in this budget. So with that, I will kind of give you a brief overview and just some of the high points. Probably the biggest thing that you really see this year. So for those of you who don't know, our permanent tax rate limitation is $226 per thousand of assessed value. One of the big things that we're looking at this year is navigating the structural budget deficit. So we have projected approximately $931,961 for the coming fiscal year. Our team, Des and the people that you see at this table and our battalion chiefs and the people who report to those battalion chiefs that are in charge of special projects. Couldn't have put this budget together without them. We take their advisement and we put together a balanced budget. And we feel that it's a very transparent budget. And we've done this looking at our primary sources, which is property taxes, ambulance fees, grants, and any fund balance. So kind of along with that, along with grants, we're pursuing multiple grants. We have grants that have come into the budget as far as resources that are coming in. One of them being the CWDG grant. We have other grants that are being written right now that we did not put into the budget because who knows? But they may come in under this new budget, which they'll be addressed at that time, and we know that we've actually gotten those grants or not. So let's see, what else was I going to hit on that? One other item that was in there. So we had in our budget under capital items, there was $250,000 last year that was for engine refurbishment that was supposed to have been used in this fiscal budget year. Unfortunately, we will not be expending those funds or receiving that apparatus until October. So we will be in the next fiscal year. And there was an increase of $27,000 on that. So it will show 200 and $227,000 on that particular expenditure. So it's kind of a carryover from this year into next year with a slight increase on it. So, with that, I will look to our advisory chair and our budget committee for any questions, concerns, or
I got a question about the shortfall, Chief Jason.
about the what?
The shortfall,
Oh, yes.
if the department has to go out for a levy again, and that seems like that may be a possibility. Everybody that worked on the levy the last time, I think it was like 2024, did a great job. I mean, they were rocket science. My question is, what can they do different than they didn't do? I think they got everything they could do.
So a couple items. One is, I think a better education to the public. I think the public in general, so one thing that was a hindrance in the past was understanding governmental budgets and what that looks like. So there was a lot of misinformation out in the public eye. And because of the station bill, every time that money was moved within that budget, we have to show that, right? So at a general glance to the general observer, our budget looked like it was hyperinflated. You know, so a true budget, operating budget of $12 million was showing as a $40 million budget or $35 million budget. And the general public did latch onto that, and I know that that was kind of a point of contention in the past. So another point of contention that I think that we need to do a better job on educating the public on is they see a tremendous amount of building in this town. And there are roadblocks when it comes to building that affects our budget. Especially when it comes to commercial properties. Urban renewal districts and enterprise zones affect that budget of what we can bring in the tax money. Along with Measure 50 capitation, which is difficult to explain in a 5-minute soundbite. And no offense to the gentleman who helped us last year. I think he was very well versed in running political campaigns for positions and seats, but he had never helped out with an operating levy. Which will be presented later at the board. I've actually been in contact with multiple people about operating levies and what needs to take place. And I actually have a little handout for them, which kind of gives a 12-month community information and kind of transparency roadmap to get us to that point and what recommendations that they gave to me when I was in talks with them. And political climate has a lot to do with it as well. But I don't think that we can look at this that it didn't happen last time, so we shouldn't try. I think that as a district, we would fight some, or we would have some various or some serious impacts and changes to this district and how it operates and to the service delivery that it provides to the community. At some point, if we do not come up with another revenue resource. And we're pretty limited because we are a special district and what we can do. Up until this point, the leadership team here, we've been pretty committed with educating the public with that. We've been out to some service club meetings, we've been in some other events, and on our social media, trying to start to deliver that message, but it's something that can't be done overnight, so
Okay,
I don't know if I answered your question,
yes, you did.
but
Thank you.
Chief, are you, are done with your total presentation?
what's that?
Are you done with your total presentation?
I'm ready for questions, and I hope we
Okay,
can
are there
do
any
it.
more questions from the budget committee? Now's the time to do it.
Perfect. So one thing that I wanted to discuss is I noticed that we are cutting the budget in recruitment. And I just don't know if, our goal is to have a good planning document, if we should be cutting that much from our recruitment right now, because we are in negotiations and we don't know what the future holds. And there's a chance that we will need to go out for recruitment. And so like we have the potential funds for pursuing a levy incorporated into the budget as an off chance if we do it. And I think that that same philosophy should be reflected in the recruitment.
So I hear what you're saying exactly. Like I said, as we put this budget together, we had to use close to $1 million of the unallocated funds to bring a balanced budget this year, and we ran a very, very tight and streamlined. As you looked through it, I'm sure you noticed on our M&S, there's some things there that we didn't fund this year, and there are some things that that we did that we had to increase just because of the cost of items, and most of those were 6% or greater on the cost increase on a lot of those items. It's hard to put a number to that because under recruitment and retention, we have a full position. We had somebody full-time doing that, which Russell has been serving in that position. We do have funds in that line item for our advertisements and our things, other items as well. I think as we get into the board meeting, when I give my report, and I suppose can say it now, because I think it plays along these lines of where the direction some of this goes. As I talked to strategists on this, most of them said that they wouldn't even consider a November levy option. One said that it was not enough time. The other one said, yeah, we could probably swing it, but I will not do it because it would come out a loser at that point. There are some other things that hopefully we'll know about, and this is grant wise, going into the new fiscal year, that really could determine some costs. One of those items is the Rural Healthcare Transformation Grant. That could be funding enough for 12 additional people, which makes the look of a levy completely different from what we were looking at before. So some of this is everybody I talked to's recommendation would be in spring, which is a year away, which we wouldn't see funds until November, which puts us into next year's fiscal year, where we would be dealing with that. And to be quite honest with you, one of my greatest concerns, and the teams here as we was putting this together was to have enough contingency that we try to avoid a tax anticipation loan. Our feeling is that we're gonna be able to avoid that this year. But part of that was by cutting the budget as tight as what we could, which has kind of a double impact on our budget when we have to start doing that, right? We lose out on interest and money, plus we're paying interest on money. So I'm just speaking as me, as the chief and and hopefully maybe for the team, is that, I'm concerned about going outside of what we're spending, trying to hold those reserves enough where potentially next year we wouldn't have to go out for a tax anticipation loan, or if we did, it wouldn't be as large of a tax anticipation loan. So that was part of my strategy as we were building this budget, was trying to really keep that as limited as possible. So, but you are the board and we will follow your recommendations, but those are some of my concerns.
For sure.
I've just a couple of comments. I liked having the previous year on the budget that came in email. That's something I look at, in terms of comparing. And one of the things I noticed looking at that was you guys did a good job this year of being tight with your expenses and trying to have money for cash carryover
Yeah.
into the coming year. But I liked seeing those numbers on the online version of the budget and seeing that you were
Yeah.
careful.
And that's something that we can take into note, you know, in future budgets that are published. One approach that we tried to do with this budget was make it a little friendlier to the general public at large. To kind of read and understand. And we did do some changes, and you may have noticed as you were looking, under some of our things, like contract services used to be spread all over the board. It made it difficult going through a budget. So we really tried to consolidate as many of those areas as we could and to make it a little more, reader friendly. Yeah, I have no issue with that in a published budget.
It's nice to have that comparison, to see what's going up and what's going down. One of the things that I saw in the budget was it reflected policy decisions fairly obviously.
I concur. I really liked having those prior year numbers in there too.
And then so Des, on that, because one thing I think that it's not as clean maybe as the side by sides, but you know, there is a page in here. Under the consolidated federal fund. You'll see on the left-hand column.
What page you on, John?
So it starts in there, on page, 11. You'll see the previous years from 23, 24 up to
Yeah.
the proposed.
Yeah.
So, and so that's why we left that in there, but under the actual department funds, just try to make it cleaner.
Yeah.
You know, just this year's purely. although I know the print is a lot finer, under the, consolidated funds. But, especially, if you're gonna sit again next year, or the board that's gonna be here next year, if you would prefer to see those, the previous year under the general fund, so it doesn't get too busy, but as you go through those, you'll even see in the different fundings, it does have the previous years, in there. So from page 11 to page 17, it'll give you from 23, 24, all the way out, so. Just a little harder to read.
Now, one thing that is if somebody off the street took a look at this, I think they would ask, what is the difference between the 25-26 adopted and the 25-26 estimated? So you may explain that difference. Desiree?
Are you asking me to explain that?
Yes, please.
Oh, sure. So we have the adopted budget from last year, and that is the 25-26 adopted.
Right.
Then we have to take an estimate of what we think we're gonna spend for the rest of this year. And that's where the estimated column is built, which also helps give us our beginning fund balance.
Right.
So we have to just kind of come up with that estimate so we can push forward.
Now, let me go through a scenario here that is people are going to take a look at this, and let's just go to page 11. Under the second section there under firefighter. You know, last year's adopted budget was 943,000. The estimated is 811. You know, that's a $130,000 savings.
No.
Okay, but
why?
okay, but why the difference? And then let me go on even further. Now we're asking for, in the proposed budget, $1,036,000. Well, you start taking that 811 and $1,036,000, you know, and divide that by 11.25, and all of a sudden we're giving a $20,000 a year raise to 11 firefighters. That's what people are going to see, you know, and they put their logic to it. So, Desiree, if you could explain that.
We know that we dropped salaries from our adopted. We do see that when we budget based on increases that are anticipated, and we don't always have those numbers when we budget.
Right.
So for this year, we don't have those numbers to be 100% accurate when we get through negotiations, for example.
Right.
So we make our best guess at the time that we have it. If we see some decrease in some of our firefighter salaries, it could be for various reasons, and I'd have to dig it out, which I'd be happy to do. But it's not just a simple answer to say, oh, well, we just had this many less than anticipated.
Well, when you're dealing with the public,
Yeah,
they want simple answers.
Yeah.
You know, and the more complicated it gets, then the more they suspect us as a taxing district. Okay, what are you doing? Are you giving a 27% increase, you know, to your firefighters? No, we're not. We're not. Okay, we are in negotiations, of course. We don't know what the final aspect is going to be, but you know, if I come off the street and I take a look at this and I said, we have some problems.
yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Some of it's gonna be that FTE that we've reduced. Some of it's, you know, that's what's hard. You know, we get new people in, other staff retire. There's changes that we don't anticipate at the time we do. So we do our very best, and I can put those things together, but I'm not quite sure how much the public wants that sort of detail, but I would love your questions at the same time. I would love if they wanted to come forward with those questions for a chance to answer them.
I've been on the budget committee for a long time, and this is essentially has been my annual. If I take this budget and I take it to the public, or I have a coffee group every morning, and our local reporter knows one of them.
Oh, you have more than one?
Yeah, I have more than one. You know, and if I take this and he says, well, what is this? What is this? Well, I mean, how do you figure that out? And whatever, and he's a businessman, you know, he understands finance, nothing type of thing, but he does not understand public entity budgeting. You know, and try to explain that to a quote, quote layperson is pretty tough. You know, so if I have to go out there and support this and present this to my compadres, you know, I have to be able to explain exactly what these figures mean. You know, and we know that everything's going up. You know, if you got, you know, 2 or 3% inflation and, you know, $96 a barrel oil and that type of thing, you know, things are going up. Okay, and you have to account for that, and everybody understands that because they're going up too.
I guess my only suggestion will be to give you talking points.
Yep.
That you as a board member would receive from us that, you know, but we would need to know what you're being asked.
Right.
Specifically, so that we could prepare something that you could take with you and be able to explain to somebody, or we could sit down and I can explain it, because that's never a problem to do either.
And as Alexander said, the side-by-side comparisons, I think are critical. Absolutely critical to see where we are coming from and the direction that we're going. You know, and some of those side-by-side comparisons are scary.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
To follow up on Matt's point, as well as circle back a little bit on Alan's point, I do agree that this budget is a tool and a resource for our potential levy efforts. And there are things that are required to be in there. We should make sure that they're in there. I think there's also an opportunity to kind of bookend the budget with things that help explain some of these nuances. Although I will say ultimately, if you're explaining, you're losing. Like people are gonna stick around. People aren't gonna stick around for nuance.
Yeah.
Like we live in a 5-second attention span kind of world, and we have to beat their soundbite with a better soundbite.
Right.
We can't go, oh, here's all the reasons that you need to understand. It's like if I started explaining insurance to you, how long would it be before you just kind of?
The room is packed with public.
So I hear you, and I do think that the budget can be used as a resource for explaining the nuances, but at the end of the day, best soundbite wins.
Yeah, it's things go in emotion, not facts. Is there any other questions or comments about the budget?
I just want to make a comment. It's not a question. I thought this was a great budget. I think that you all have done a really good job. It shows with the estimated versus adoptive that we're being tight on the purse strings. I like the conservative approach where we're not over counting our chickens before they hatch. On our resource side, as they want us to say now, we're being conservative. On the expenditure side, kind of the opposite. We're expecting more expenses and maybe we won't have all of them. And I think it's also very important to just discuss, even though we're at a deficit, even though times are tough, we're still being forward thinking. You know, we're putting in money to have available at a beginning balance, so we avoid the tens of thousands in interest in a tax anticipation note. We're still putting away for refurbishments and, you know, building maintenance. There are a lot of people, when money get tight, planning goes out the window and they're just in survival mode. So big kudos to the fire district team for having a very conservative budget and also still thinking about what happens a year from now, 2 years from now, if something goes wrong that we weren't anticipating. So I really appreciated this budget.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions or comments from the committee
About budget in general.
about the budget? Yes.
Yeah, I just got a real quick question. Line item number 612-900, page 30. Under the dues and subscriptions. OFDBA membership is not on that list. Is the department just not gonna have that membership this year?
So which,
Line item 612,900.
right, which group?
Oh, the
Yeah. So, that was one due that we pulled away from last year, we did not
Yeah.
utilize. We didn't foresee it necessarily in this coming year, this last year. Actually, SDAO probably gave very good presentation as far as fire board directors. And so we felt that it was gonna be kind of duplicating some of those services on that.
Well, what I will say, I think that was a good move. I was on the board for 14 years, past president there. And a lot of departments in the state is saying, you know, they've kind of outlived their usefulness. Well, per se, so I think that was a good move. So that's all I had to say.
Okay, anything else? Right? No?
Good.
We're okay, we're good. Okay, I don't have a copy of the motion in front of me. Does Ray, do you have that? I kind of figured you did, and you know, and I could ad lib it pretty close, you know, except for the ORS numbers.
Wanna take a stab?
I can take a stab at it.
I'm not
You
sure.
shouldn't do that, Pat.
It's not in my folder.
Anyway, the resolution is under Oregon revised statutes that the budget committee submits their approval in the budget to the board as presented. So that's the resolution. If somebody wants to make that resolution,
So moved.
so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded for the adoption resolution. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Alright.
All those opposed, nay. Like the ayes have it, the is approved by the budget committee and referred to the board for final adoption. Okay, any other comments, questions? Tap dances?
I didn't hear who second.
Oh, Roddy.
I would just like to comment, I appreciate the citizens on the budget committee that have done this in the past and the new ones. I appreciate your time and effort in digging through this budget and coming up with questions and concerns and also some of the praises. So we appreciate it. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I will adjourn the budget committee. And we will have a short break before we start the board of directors meeting.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Al, are you gonna stay?
Thank you, Secretary.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, get approval of March 5th, 2026 board workshop minutes and March 10th, 2026 minutes.
There was some adjustments made to the minutes. And I lost my sheet, Bev. Do you have that? I don't know how I lost them. Oh, no. That one was highlighted. This one. So, minutes under the workshop, the first bullet, page 2, the last sentence was changed to add the word us. And on page 5, the apparatus report, last paragraph, dollar signs were removed.
Well, with those corrections, I move to approve.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, next, citizen comment. Nothing there. Okay. New business, financial report.
Already? Okay.
That's what it says.
This will take us.
Well,
So fast.
Oh, time's up.
Okay, well, let's see, minutes. Fire med, we'll start with fire med. It appears no flow at this time of year, which is pretty typical. It's not truly, we get most of our fire med payments in May and June, so it's right on track where you would expect it to be at this time of year. So we have started emailing the members though, where we can, those that have provided their email address. And so we've just done this for the first time, so we're hoping to see a good response rather than having to use the postage to remind people that it's time to renew if they want to renew. So I think we're gonna look at it next month to see how big the response was through email. Yes.
Are we doing the automatic renewals now?
We are actually, we're just starting them. We started them in March. So we're, was it February? Right around there. We had a couple tests at the very beginning of February. So yeah, so if somebody does want to, go online and do an automatic renewal, it's $60 as opposed to the $70.
Perfect, you answered my next question.
So there is a discount, which is really nice. We haven't seen a lot of use of that just yet, but we're hoping that we'll see some people want to do that because it just makes it so much easier. We'd still email them, don't get me wrong, we'd still email, but it would be differently. Anyway, if we don't receive a lot of response, we're gonna go ahead and mail some letters, at least initially letting people know we won't be sending letters in the mail and that it's all gonna be through email for those that we have email addresses for. So we'll see how it goes though. On our ambulance billing, you know what, it's higher than expected from last year. We're 39,000 on an average per month higher than we did last year. So that is good. So I think we're gonna receive what we're very close to what we budgeted. So hopefully, I mean, it'd be great if we got more, but we'll see how things keep going. We had like 400,000 in, I want to say it was either February or March. I had some adjustments that I had to make that came in late. And so that made quite a difference too. Tacticals closing, our accounts receivable balance is 1.5 million. So they're right on track. They kind of, do a little bit of this, if any. In the financial statements themselves, I have nothing notable that flagged my attention. Everything kind of looks pretty normal. But I do recall from our budget workshop that there were questions about cash flow. And so I did put some information together. It's certainly, I can go into further depth, but for tonight, we have projected our ending fund balance at 4.2 million and 364,000 of that is for the bond, which of course is a whole separate account. And we can't really use that bond money for our cash flow, but we could loan on it if we did come to you with a resolution to say, hey, can we borrow against that fund? We don't intend on going that route, but what that does mean is we have 3.9 million in beginning fund balance for our spending. So one of the main questions was, do we have enough cash to carry us to November? Next year, yes, we do. So 26, 27, we do have enough cash to get us there. It's not gonna be a super close number, so I'm comfortable with the number. And of course, that will be updated as we get to the end of the year. I expect that number to be a little bit more padded, but I'm conservative when it comes to looking at those numbers. The other big question was, when will our beginning fund balance be depleted? We know that we have to, once we no longer have that beginning fund balance, it's gonna cost us the money in interest to have the tax anticipation note, as well as the loss of that interest income, which is about 180,000 plus the 100,000 interest payment. So we're looking at about a $280,000 hit to us once we no longer have that beginning cash flow, the beginning cash balance. So it's extremely important, but we are going to be running out. 27, 28, I think we'll be fine. 28, 29, not thinking we're gonna be so fine. I think we're gonna be very close. We'll just have to see as things go forward, as we have grants come in, and hopefully that we'll see more of those. That would be great, because that would certainly help our situation significantly. But I think in 28, 29, we're gonna have to have a tax anticipation note, so we're really gonna see some changes there. The projections that we talked about at the workshop didn't include the CWDG grant. I think all of those numbers are outdated after just a year and a half. I mean, a lot of things can happen in that time frame. So that's when we originally built those projections, and we've done some updating, but not significant. So I want to redo them all. I want better numbers. I want a little bit more accuracy to them. But at least we know, using those numbers, that I think for the next 2 years, I think we're fine. But then we hopefully we've come up with something by then. Otherwise, I don't want to be Debbie Downer again, but like I was in the workshop, we really are in a pinch that we have to come up with a solution.
So how many districts and departments utilize bridge loans?
I actually have the number, but I do see emails come through the Finance Alliance, through SDAO. I'm on some emails for that, and people are asking now, hey, where are you getting your loans from? So I saw some this week, as a matter of fact, with people asking, and then other people chime in and say, yeah, where are you going? Because I need to know too.
Right.
So I think it's becoming more popular, unfortunately, not popular, prevalent, probably the better word. It's definitely not something that people want to do, but I mean, we need our cash fund balance. And I'm going to give you a quick explanation on why. When you think about it when you live in a home, you've got your mortgage payment, and at the beginning of the month, you're going to have the payment, and you get paid, let's say, once a month. And if your payment, we get paid here on the 7th of every month. So I have to keep my mortgage payment in the bank to make that payment on the 1st of the month. And that's from my prior check. And that's really what we're looking at. We've got to keep the money from our prior revenues in that bank so that we can make those payments to get to November. So it's not like we have all this extra money. It's just that we need that money to get to November so that we don't run out of money. And as soon as we start running out of money, it starts costing us a significant amount of money as well. So that's kind of a brief, very brief explanation of kind of how it works.
Well, why, way back before you were born, we used to have cereal levies. I've been on several school boards, and the issue is exactly what she said, is how do you get through to tax collection time in November? And a lot of that is economy, and a lot of that is exactly what we did the year before. And there's an awful lot of school districts that relied and still rely on loans in order to get them through to November. And I don't know how the collection is now, but there have been years that you know, they only collected, you know, 60 or 70% of property taxes on time.
Mhm.
On time, so you're not gonna get all that money, you know, and it's spaced out,
Right.
and hopefully you don't have. I don't see that many delinquent property tax lists in the paper anymore,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, it was very common.
Well, the context around my question is I'm wondering if this is something that could be brought up in our Salem lobbying efforts, if there's some sort of government program that could be instituted for these, or regulations put on how much interest they can make off of them with so many districts and agencies relying on them.
Yeah, that's been one of the topics in this, rural fire protection district funding, so as we go through, and a lot of this we've talked about, right, of, how can these rural fire protection districts fund one another? That item's been brought up, you had asked a question earlier about, under new construction fees that could be done, which fire districts right now currently can't do anything. You know, grants, you know, is another big one. And, one of the things that I've been pounding the table on is all these little items are great. They call it, you know, it's everybody, oh, the low hanging fruit, low hanging fruit. Well, the problem is you can't feed yourself for the season on the low hanging fruit that's there, you know, when the fruit comes on. And so it's about, stable, consistent, reliable funding. And, so a lot of these things really are gonna take constitutional changes within the state. And that's really been kind of the last topic that we left off with, that it's kind of really the big push is having the courage to go to our lawmakers and to the governor and say, we need to make these constitutional changes to be able to fund ourselves. Whether it's that, so I'm sure Dale can remember years ago, we used to be able to do that. We used to take tax anticipation notes, and then we would invest in, and then we would bridge that area, and we would make money on them instead of costing money. The problem was, at some point in time, there were some people that either made bad investments or the market failed, and they weren't able to do that, so the state pulled back onto that. We can do a slight amount, but, and I don't know if Des, you know, offhand with
I don't
dollar
think
amount,
we can
it's a
invest-
pretty small amount that you can actually do that with. But that's kind of what's being put at towards the state, and it really is gonna take some courage by the fire service and by lawmakers out there, to be able to forge that. And one of my big pushes anyway is that the fire district here at Lebanon sat very good until measure, 5, 47, and 50 come along. And I think that what it's really gonna take is the courage of the lawmakers to make a constitutional change that emergency services are pulled out of that measure 50 provision. I think ultimately that's going to have to be the fix for stable, consistent funding. And for the funding to go for what the voters originally back when this district was formed, voted for. I know that we had conversation and I've been putting some thought into this, that, well, what about an ambulance district? And there is a couple of problems with an ambulance district. One problem is now you've made a competing interest under that measure 50 provision with your fire district. So now you've added a whole nother entity in there that could potentially put large amounts of your district into a compression. So you're not leveraging your, true, dollars per thousand, because we're getting compressed because of that added district that's added into the system. I think it's still something that's worthwhile of looking into. I think it's gonna take a lot more research. The problem, I think, is that the amount of time that it takes to get the research, to get the groundwork laid, to potentially get it passed, and then to get it enacted, is gonna be longer than the amount of time and money that we have within the district. But I think that it is still worthy of putting effort and energy into digging into and looking into more. Because I think at some point that might be the only thing that keeps, reliable, consistent, community-based EMS program in place.
I have a question, you know, as the county collects taxes, it goes into the state investment pool, is that correct?
Yes, believe so, it is, yeah.
Yes, yes.
And what kind of interest rates are we getting out of that?
Well, we were at 4.5, and now we're down to 4. So
Down
it
to
was
4.
better and it's getting worse. So I don't know what it's gonna do as we go forward.
Where in the financial report does that show as revenue or resources?
It's an interest. So if you were to go to, that's not the financial statement. It goes into a couple of different places. I don't know if it's 201 revenue or if it's 202. In 201, which on the financial statements, on the detailed financial statements, page 1,
Oh, interest on investment.
yes, that's part of it, and the other part would be in the bond, the debt fund, and that's the other piece that has to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, because when you start talking about investing outside of that, you know, get a loan and then reinvest and that type of thing, then you have to beat that interest.
Well, and they don't really allow it. They've really put a lot of,
They put a lot of firewalls
So you
there,
can't get-
so you can't do it, yeah.
they really don't want you doing it at all because
Yeah.
of people losing money in the past.
There was a lot of places in California that got themselves in big trouble over that a number of years ago.
Okay, anything else on financial?
I'm good.
Okay. We'll go to number 3, union addressing the board. Nothing? And, okay, 4, volunteers address the board.
Just a quick volunteer update. We've started Spring Fire Academy for our volunteers last weekend. So we have 7 firefighters going through academy. With that, we also are bringing on 3 support volunteers, so 10 total new volunteers in the ranks. With 10 coming on, we also lost 8, and so we have 8 that exited the organization, and so we're net 2, positive 2 for the overall springtime.
Good work. Yeah. Work. Any questions on that? Okay, number 5, fire chief report.
So I touched on it during the budget committee and Russell sees. So I had reached out to, I talked previously about Liz Loomis. She's the one that helped us with the, bond. I also reached out to, so the city uses a company, Pacific Northwest Strategies. I reached out to Betsy Close there, and she's busy working on strategies for other cities and departments. But she recommended somebody within her group who, I talked with. And kind of like I said in the budget committee meeting, just kind of to reiterate, is, the Liz Loomis wouldn't even touch it, she wanted a year. For, public education, items like that, talking with, the P&W strategies. And both of these companies, so, Liz, I reached out to SDAO, they recommended Liz Loomis. The P&W was recommended by, like I said, the city uses, but I also reached out to, some other people in the political world and who they were using. There's several other places that were using the P&W. But I took the information that they gave me. P&W is the one that said, well, it'd be tight, but I wouldn't even touch a November election. And took what they would do or what they would want to do within a year and laid it within our budget year. And that's what you have here as far as strategies. And part of this, has kind of been, with the exception of a hire a firm and conduct a feasibility, study. Some of this we've been kind of doing. And a part of that's preparing, and that's preparing the community. But with this, if a springtime levy would be something that we would want to look at, we really need to be starting now. Liz Loomis said she'd come down and speak to the board in time, and I'm sure I can get PNW to come down and speak on what they could do, and I could try to find a third party, if that's what the board so chooses, to put out a presentation. They really all kind of follow this little guideline on what they do with marketing. They do different things with some marketing, some of it they hire door-to-door door knockers and different marketing things. Some of this as a group and as a leadership team, we've been trying to do on our own, and I think that's been just in the best interest of transparency within the community. So this is what I put together for you guys to kind of look at, digest, and consider. The other thing that I kind of come up with, because, and Wyatt's already seen this, because he was getting questions from the public, like all of you do. And I put together just kind of a quick, frequently asked questions sheet, and kind of some questions and answers, on some of the common themes out there, some of the common things that we get asked. No, I did have, but no, I don't have. And so I'm hoping that some of that might be helpful to some of you might already have down pat. But these, as we've been to some groups, as I've talked to some of the leaders in the community, public at large, these are some of the questions that have been popping up from people, and then some of them are ones that are added extra in there, that I've come up with. So one of any questions on either one of those, as you guys kind of.
I don't have a question so much as a comment. It has been a while since I've been impressed with outside consulting firms and their results in Lebanon. My current feel on that is kind of what I tell my kids: we have McDonald's at home. My curiosity is, how much are we looking to pay these consultants, and what would that compare to paying admin staff overtime to accomplish the same things? Because I feel strongly that outside voices are a good way to turn off Lebanon haters.
So I will tell you that An outside voice does have to come. We're the speaker, right? They're the professionals, and how do we market? What do what do you need to do? What do you need to serve? What do you? Some of that has to do with capacity as well. I've got a training chief here that I'm telling him, man, you need to look at your days, because when he starts getting into, the mode of academies, he spends, I can guarantee you, matter of fact, anyone at this table, does far more than 40 hours a week. I know Des, I have to, tell her no, sometimes, and I don't know if she listens or not. And the same thing with, the fire marshal and the operations chief and myself and Russell. And so I think in order to do it justice, we're going to need help. We did use an outside consultant when we went for the bond for the station. We had fairly good success. There's still gonna be a heavy lift on us. You know, one of them that both firms, said is that we need to have, be doing what we've been doing. And that's getting out to service clubs, getting involved, getting out in front of people where they can ask us questions. We can talk about the concerns of the district, we can give them answers. It's also, open houses, much like what we did the last time. I'm not gonna say that how hiring an outside consultant is no guarantee, and it doesn't lessen any of our work. But I think if we're gonna stand a chance for success, I think we need the experts that do this. There's some of them that'll give a high success rate in the 90 percentiles. They want time. And they want commitment from the groups, from the labor groups, from the volunteer groups, and from PAC committees. There's a PAC committee out there that's willing to help us out. And like I said, they're kind of turnkey, but the more time that they have to build a coffer to put money into this, the more successful we potentially could be. So,
Well, I think the consultants are strategists. And that's all they are. We have to be the voice. We have to be the face. And you're right, outside faces and voices don't work in Lebanon at all, because there's no trust. And that's the problem, is that we have to gain the trust of the voters. And the only way to do that is explain in voter language what is going on and to be in front of them. And like you say, the civic groups and that type of thing, they'll all sit there and they'll be nice and they'll nod. You gotta put the flash in front of them. You gotta put the pizzazz in front of them. You just can't say, hey, we're out of money and we need your help. No, you gotta have, good PowerPoints, good presentations. They gotta be flashy. They gotta really show Lebanon Fire District in action. And show just like what you put there. Here's where we are. Here's our stations and here's our personnel. And now what do you want us to do? This is as much as we can do right now, and the call volumes and those types of things. You can dazzle them with facts, hardly. It's all the pizzazz. It's all the, hey, let's get behind, those boys and girls. Is what it amounts to, so they have got to feel ownership in Lebanon Fire District, not that, oh, it's just they're sucking taxes.
don't disagree, man.
When it comes to boots on the ground, I mean, labor, PAC and whatnot is gonna be behind it, right? I mean, that's who's gonna be speaking to the public and putting yard signs down and door knocking and that kind of.
Yeah, once we get to a certain point,
Yeah,
it has to be
that's gonna
them.
be the face.
Yeah. And then at that certain point, that's all I can't give us facts, or the leadership can give us facts. But I don't disagree with you, Matt, you know, and that's one thing as we've been doing this, that we've been trying to do when we got, you know, when we've been in front of these groups. And, we've gotten good feedback, I feel, from a lot of these. But it's really gonna take the district, the members of the district, they're the ones that are gonna have to really get it over the finish line. And they're the ones that are gonna have to be the voice, you know, and that's this group, that's labor group, that's a volunteer group.
Do we have the technology tools in order to put together good presentations, computers,
Oh, yeah.
projectors, all of that?
Yeah, you haven't seen Mr. Fitzwater's work. You missed that part in the board workshop.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You would've been
I saw part
impressed.
of it. I saw part of it.
yeah, you would have been impressed.
Yeah.
So,
You know, and that's the big thing is that, you know, the strategist group, you know, could help us put pizzazz into those PowerPoints.
Yeah.
And, you know, choose the right pictures and that type of thing, you know, and, you know, I've seen good things in newspapers. You know, pictures and those types of things that show things, but they really need to show the community outreach that we do with grade schools and all the other things that are passed over that don't get a lot of attention.
and I think that is, I think that was somewhat of a fatal flaw that we're pulling back in to, is that, and some of it's resources of people to get out there, but we kind of pull back from that. This leadership team and the labor team and the volunteers, because they were just out at one the other day out at Tractor Supply, is to get in ourselves re-injected into those things, and putting faces out there to it.
Well, the other thing too, chief, is if you go out there in a uniform, you're essentially barnstorming for your pocketbook, and your pocketbook, and your pocketbook, because you get paid. Okay, what about unpaid people? Who don't get paid, who's part of the community in the district to give presentations. I have no problem getting in front of people.
Thanks for volunteering, man.
Second that.
You know, but, you know, you've utilized the resources that you have.
Yeah, and that's what I said, it's gonna take the whole district.
It's gonna take everybody plus. You know, we had 3 people right over there that don't get paid by the district. You know, and I know Alice Ann has been rather active in her life in this community. You know, and there's an awful lot of people that know her, you know, if she would be willing to, you know, to work in that capacity for us.
You know, really, that's what I'm getting at when I talk about, I don't think the consultants are going to move the needle very much. Because these days, getting a good PowerPoint that like passes muster, I mean, you can go on Claude's AI system and in 40 seconds, they'll have one for you. And people are getting very used to that. Content is everywhere. And so people just kind of gloss over. It's like, oh, great PowerPoint, great pictures. I saw 20 other pictures in the last 5 minutes. It's the connection that's really going to move the needle.
Well, and see, the PowerPoint has got to be local. The PowerPoint, you know, everything in there has got to be local, but you know, the pictures and whatever else. And in those PowerPoints, you gotta show the ugly. You know, take a picture of that stupid roof on 34. You know, let's take a picture of issues with an engine, you know, or a med unit or whatever. You know, take pictures of the problems, of the ugliness that we have to deal with and that we have to replace from time to time. And the maps and the personnel mapping and all of that, you know, that's eye-opening for a lot of people, because they just don't understand the process. You know, but you gotta have some presenters. And I think the presenters, you have somebody in uniform and you have somebody not in uniform at those places. You know, exceptions, your long time family in the district. You've been here forever. You know,
40 years this year. 40 years this year.
Yeah, that's right. Well, but your family's been here for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so that's the thing, is that, you know, you have community roots. And there's a lot of people that work here, and I don't know what's background. A lot of people that have community roots, their parents are here, their uncles are here, or, you know, they have kids. Coming through the program. You know, get that damn Marty Suey off his butt and tell him to come talk.
I think actually that would probably be a pretty easy one to do.
Yeah, get people that the community understands and trusts and respects.
Amen.
Your dad.
Also.
So one thing that we could do that doesn't cost us money, like I said, is I could invite some of the strategists to come and talk, where the board could hear what they. And at least I know one of them says that doesn't cost you nothing. So, if the board so chooses, I could start pursuing that, at least get some here and talk.
Yeah, let's do that, John. And-
Yeah.
I agree.
And then we're gonna have to make a commitment that we're actually gonna go out.
Yeah, like I said, it's at some point, probably here very soon, we're gonna have to make that commitment
Right.
to getting the ball rolling. So, one thing, not all the members, were able to make it, so Russell's just gonna pass out there the award winners of our banquet this year, so you can kind of put a face to who it was and what they won. I'll try to be real quick with the rest of this. So, you heard me speak about the engine refurbishment update, so it's getting tore down right now. Matter of fact, they got pictures. Well, I'll email out the link to you, so if you want to get online, you can get online and you can actually look at the progress as it goes through. It looks like around October is when that's going to be completed. State of the current fleet, and this is for Dale White's, knowledge, because he happened to be talking to me when we had an issue with our truck where we had oil in the water. And that's never good, and that's usually one of two things. It's either an oil cooler or it's a piston liner. I told him, I think it's an oil cooler, and I was right, it was an oil cooler, which is far better than an overhaul.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and we also had a ladder tested. When they test our aerial apparatus, it's a failure test, so it either passes or it twists and bends the ladder up right there in the parking lot. It passed, so, and it should, it's new enough. The insurance training where we get our break, that is scheduled for the July board meeting. So through our company. CD or CWDG, so I asked for board approval for the purchase of the pickup. The invoice has been put in. We don't pay until we take delivery. It could be at the end of June, or it could be at the first part of July, so it's one of those limbo things. But we'll get reimbursed, fairly rapidly on that through the grant. We also done interviews with those grant positions. By the end of the week, Mark's gonna be sending out letters, to, the interviewees on that. And they'll be starting their training in May. One of the nice things too, about these members is that they are, part of the grant requirements is getting out and doing public ed, and public meetings and things like that, and we have some events already. As a matter of fact, we ran across one the other day. And, it come up against some other timelines, and we went, well, wait a minute, we're gonna have 4 brand new people that are gonna have to start getting out there in the public and doing some of this. And so we already have them, scheduled, so. So with that, that is in my report.
Is this ready for public distribution?
The frequently asked questions,
Right, yeah.
I would hold off on public district. You can use it to answer
Right.
public questions. I think, so I sent that to Ashley, which I haven't heard back on that particular one. I sent it out. I said Mark might have some additions. But I think that's something that we're probably gonna put out on our website. Just because it does help a lot of people's questions. There's, on social media, there's always a lot of misinformation. One of them is that people are paying on a bond for the ladder truck. We never went out for a bond for the ladder truck. It's not a geo bond. It's called a bond because we're making payments on it. It's like a car loan out of budget. So it wasn't extra money, but that's one of the misleading items that are out there. I kind of, like I said, I kind of like a FAQ because that was a lot of the ones that we kind of get. And it also kind of helped briefly explain some of the other items that were out there, talk a little bit about urban renewal districts, enterprise zones and some of that.
Yeah, I think this is great information. I'm looking forward to the day Ashley whips out like a social media post that has like a picture for each one and a little follow-up information, because I think that'll get a good conversation going.
Just one last item to add. I think probably next month we'll have the annual report out, so I should be seeing a draft, I think, around the end of the month, so that will be coming up.
And then next month's board meeting, we'll have the, grant, or not the, levy folks here.
I'm going to see what I can swing.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that I could swing it, but that's gonna be what my intent is.
Okay, any other questions on anything? Okay, we're going to adjourn to the executive session from ORS 1926602 to conduct deliberation on labor negotiations.
That's the worst place to have that camera. It's looking-
What, looking at you?
Yes,
It won't break.
I'm not that photogenic, I'm sorry.
You are now.
Yeah, break the lens. Anyway,
We're all falling over. Okay, we're reconvening regular session. Is there any other agenda items?
move we adjourn.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor? All right.